The first step in once a customer removes their contingency is to take the sketches and any options the customer has selected and put those details in a CAD drawing so that we can prepare the plan to submit to the county to obtain a permit. In the old days, plans used to come out in a size that was 24 inches wide or tall by 36 inches wide. So it was a 24 by 36. This is called traditionally a quarter scale plan. You'll notice in the plan, let me just flip through some pages, that the actual layout is literally at quarter scale. Very easy to read, but based on today's technology, none of the trades actually use quarter scale plans. This size plan is still submitted to the county, and this is what we use for inspection purposes. But other than that, there is no purpose to the 24 by 36. So 11 by 17 is used by all trades, all subcontractors, all suppliers. This is the norm in today's building environment. The first page will always be the cover page. So in this example, and what you'll find throughout each of our plans, will be a section where the CAD files is calculating the area. So the cover page will also outline where the different layouts can be found, i.e. page 1, page 2, so that you can look to the cover sheet and go right to, for instance, the second floor plan. So this is the cover sheet. Also, the cover sheet will have revision dates off to the side. This helps us track if there's a change to the plan, what is the latest date per sheet. On the flip back, there's a bunch of notes on the plan. This is related to various code requirements that need to be submitted to the county. The first design set is not going to have all these notes. These notes are added once you approve the design and we go into what we call permit sets. At that point, when you approve the design, any changes after that point are charged on an hourly basis. If you notice on the plans, the bottom right hand corner will identify which page number you're on. So for instance, right now we're on sheet A1. This happens to be a lower level layout. What I like to do is start with the first floor because pretty much everything flows from the first floor. So I'm going to skip up a couple floors and look at the first floor plan. So first floor, sheet A2. A couple things to think about. One is I like to start from reviewing the plans as if I were walking up to the house. So in this case, you can see this, there are two physical steps leading to the porch. When you get your design set, we're not sure if there's going to be 2 steps, 3 steps, 5 steps. So the architectural plan is not trued up to the site plan yet. So we show prototypically 2 steps. You'll also notice as you go from the porch to the first floor, there's going to be a note that says max down 6 inches. So this is automatically defining that from the first floor elevation, you're stepping down 6 inches onto your porch. So you're starting to descend down to ground level, and then you'll have a series of steps to get down to your lead walk. The first thing that you'll notice when you walk into the door is a dimension string. It's a very thin line. The dimension string should not be confused with the wall thicknesses. So here you can see this dark line is the thickness of a 2x4 wall versus this very thin line is a dimension string. So if I start from the left side and go from left to right, you'll notice there's an outside dimension here of 6 inches. Then it says 11 feet 10 inches. Then you'll notice there's a tick mark between the study and the foyer with no dimension. Our plans won't show interior wall thicknesses unless there's a structural reason to show them. It makes the plan very confusing when we start putting in 4-inch tick marks with notes throughout the plan. So you see the tick mark, this just means there's 4 inches here. Then the plan travels over to another dimension of 6 feet 6 inches. Now you see, because it's not 4 inches, a tick mark here of the thickness for this bulkhead, which I'll explain in a second, is 8 inches, then 12 feet 8. So here's where you can find your dimension strings. You'll find them on the x-axis. You'll find them on the y-axis. One thing to note, some dimension strings are from the inside of wall to the inside of wall. So for instance, if you look at this dimension, it says 12.3.5, and you look at where the dimension string is matching up to, it's matching up to the inside of the study wall common with the bathroom. It's matching up to the inside of the exterior wall. So in actuality, the study is 12.8, but if you were to go to the outside extremity, you would need to add, 12.3. If you were to go to the outside extremity of the exterior wall, you would need to add another 6 inches. So in theory it would be, or in practice it would be, 12 feet 9.5 inches. The other thing to denote is you will see something that says FC. That stands for floor change. Most of our houses, most of our customers pick, for instance, hardwood floors throughout the first floor. So the floor change designation is almost superfluous because there really isn't a floor change, a floor break. It's all continuous, but that's what the FC means. You'll also notice there's going to be window sizes throughout the floor plan and door sizes. Window sizes are always, and door sizes are always width and then height. So in this case, where you see a 3060, it means the window is 3 feet 0 inches wide by 6 feet 0 inches tall. It just so happens there's 2 windows next to each other, so there's 2 3060 windows on this front elevation. Going from the foyer into the study, you'll notice there's a set of a double swing door. It says here 2668. That means there are 2 doors. Each door is 2 feet 6 inches wide by 6 feet 8 inches tall. So the key thing to remember when you're looking at doors and windows is its width, then height, and its feet and inches. If you look in the foyer, you'll also see something that leading into the dining room, it says bulkhead. It says in this condition, the bulkhead is set in terms of its height at 8 feet 0 inches. In this plan on the first floor, the ceiling height is 9 feet, and it's telling our framers to pad down from the ceiling 1 foot so that this bulkhead or this framed opening is 8 feet tall. Now it just so happens, if you wanted to know how wide is the bulkhead, well, here's a dimension string. It's 11 feet and 1/2 inch. One other thing to consider when you're looking at room dimensions is these are rough dimensions. So for instance, if I were to look at this dining room and say it says here 12 feet 3 inches, well, there's a 1/2 inch drywall on each side. So really the room dimension in its finished condition would be 12 feet 2 inches. As we travel further into the plan, you're going to see other things. So here's a stairwell. You'll look, there's a note on this stairwell. It says up 16 risers. So here's the first step, second step, third step, going up. It's called a switchback stair, going up to the second floor. If you look closer on the plan, it says 2, 3, 4. And that means when you're standing on the floor, you're at the first kind of step level, so to speak. So 2 just means the second tread, third tread, fourth tread, so on and so forth. So to go upstairs, you would have to travel 16 risers or 16 vertical increments. That would equate to 15 actual treads, physical treads. In this plan, it's also showing an opened rail. It starts at this first tread and goes up until the 1, 2, 3 to the fourth tread. Then you'll notice the wall closes down in the family room. So this area here is open between the stairwell and the family room. In this condition, we've pushed the fireplace into the room. So the fireplace could have been cantilevered to the outside. The reason this customer chose to have the fireplace pushed into the room is because they intended to put built-ins on either side of the fireplace. If you look across the back of the house, again, you're going to see the same nomenclature. You see 3060, so here's a twin 3060 window. This is a 6080 door. This is called an atrium door. This is actually two panels. The panel on the left is fixed. The panel on the right is operable. We highly encourage our customers to only install atrium doors versus French doors for exteriors. The kitchen, as designated here for the design set, is really holding space. When you approve the design set, we will send the kitchen, we will actually send the full set of plans to our kitchen designer, and we will prepare an actual kitchen layout. The kitchen layout will be plan view, which is what you're looking at here. It'll give you an elevation view, which is just looking straight on at the cabinetry, and it'll give you an isometric view, which is kind of a 3D image. The architectural plans don't have, in AutoCAD, don't have that option, but the kitchen designing software does. So what we will do is we will actually send our kitchen designer the plan. Kitchen designer will develop a prototypical layout. We will go through various changes to the layout. Perhaps we move a refrigerator from one wall to the next. Perhaps we move a dishwasher, so on and so forth. So while we're preparing the design set, we typically don't drill down to that detail, but we do take the approved kitchen designer's kitchen design and update the architectural plans with that design. Last but not least, the one change that we will allow our customers is to actually reposition the kitchen window. So said differently, when we develop this base design of the kitchen on the architectural plan, we're not 100% confident that the window is going to match exactly with the kitchen layout. Perhaps it needs to be shifted 3 inches one way or another way for symmetry. We will absolutely update the plan to match the kitchen layout. One footnote is typically in our homes, typically customers are choosing double hung windows. I'll show you what those look like here in just a bit. When you choose double hung windows, by default, we will use casement windows over kitchen sinks and over bathtubs and master bathrooms only. The reason we do that is it is very hard to reach over the countertop to open the sash lock on a double hung window and lift up the window. So it's much easier, said differently, ergonomically speaking, much easier to just crank the window open while you're in the kitchen. So when we use casement windows, unlike double hung windows, as you may recall, we said a double hung window, its feet and width and height. In a casement window, it's actually measured in inches. So if we look here in the family room, this says 3 feet 0 inches wide by 6 feet 0 inches tall. This casement window is 24 inches wide by 48 inches tall. That's just the standard nomenclature in terms of allocating kitchen windows. Moving through the plan, we will also true up the number of steps from the mudroom to the garage based on the site plan. You can also see just various dimension strings throughout the plan needed for framing purposes. On the second floor, if you remember from the first floor, we're starting here in the back foyer and going upstairs. So we're going to land at the second floor here. Okay, so for the second floor, if we wanted to go downstairs, we would travel in this direction. In this plan, we have a large picture window in the stairwell providing natural light to the upstairs hallway. In most plans in today's market, people are staying away from two-story spaces, because it's energy inefficient, and B, because you get a better value if you build over the entire first floor. The only thing to really discuss on the second floor are two things. One, again, over the bathtub, you will notice casement windows, and again in this plan it says 24 by 48 twin, meaning 2 casement windows. On the first floor, Typically we do 3060 windows. On the second floor we typically do 3050 windows. With our manufacturer, a 3-foot by 5-foot window meets what they call egress. Every bedroom must have one egressable window to meet code. And so by default, typically most of the windows are 3050. The only nuance to that would be bathrooms are typically a little bit smaller because the spaces are smaller. Also in laundry rooms, typically the windows are a little bit smaller, again because the space is smaller. And sometimes in the stairwell, the window is actually bigger because we're trying to fill the stairwell in the second floor with lots of natural light. Here's the exterior of this home. Just a couple things to go over with you. One is you see a lot of text notes and a lot of dimensions. Here you'll see the first floor we're allocating from floor to ceiling is 9 foot 1.5 inches. And that's the prototypical standard from the industry for a 9-foot ceiling. You'll also notice we're calling out the window head height. And in this case, we're saying that the windows across the front are going to be 8 feet off the floor. On the second floor, this plan also has 9-foot ceilings. It's actually 9 foot 1 1/8. And I just wrote over it, but this window head height was set at 7.2. The reason the window head height on the second floor is set a little lower is A, that the windows on the second floor are 3050, not 3060. B, on the second floor, we need the windows to be at least 2 feet above the floor. Otherwise, there's a safety concern and we have to do some special detailing, whether it's rails or whatnot, so that it meets code. Again, you see it may be hard to see on this plan, but there are 2 physical steps leading up to the porch. Again, this, in terms of the number of steps, will be trued up to the site plan. Here you can see the stone water table. This is covering the foundation wall. You'll also notice other things here in terms of features, shutters. This has got shingle siding. At the top of the roof is something called a roof vent. This is really a shingled cap that goes on the top of the roof to allow air that is passively moving up through the eaves to make its way out through the roof so that we get positive and active airflow. So some of the other things to review with you with this front elevation in terms of what is shown on the plan. This customer selected shingle siding. So this is vertical siding that has kind of a shingled look. There are 2 styles, staggered and straight. 99% of our customers choose the straight styled shingle. The shingle siding is more expensive than the horizontal siding. I would say it's probably 3 times more expensive, 2.5 to 3 times more expensive than the horizontal siding. So in this house you can see shingle siding on a portion of the house. Here you can see actually some horizontal siding above the porch roof. And again you can see the shingle siding on this dormer. This house is somewhat French provincial. It's got some steep gables to it. You can see the gables actually sweeping gables, sweeping gable here. And that's really just to kind of accentuate the eaves of the house. You'll also notice that we have some shutters, really not many. We have 2 shutters here. These are called faux windows. They're real windows, but they lead to nowhere. So what we do is we actually paint the back side of these windows black. So when you look from the street through the window, you don't see the 2x4 framing members behind the window. Again, here you see some shutters on these windows, here and here. This is also what we call a faux dormer. Again, it's a real dormer. They're real windows, but it's leading to nowhere. So this is purely for exterior presentation purposes. A couple other things to go over with you is on the front of our homes, typically we'll do a taller head feature over the windows. So typically we'll do 4-inch vertical legs around the windows with either a 6 or 8-inch head feature, and that's just really to make the windows pop. On the side elevations, we typically will do 4-inch surrounds, so that we are picture framing the windows, but the presentation's a little bit more subtle on the sides and the rear than it is on the front elevation. Here you see the porch. Our columns are all PVC columns. Rails are optional. So the only reason that you would need to have a rail, other than if you just like the look, is if the grade from the porch to the ground is more than 30 inches by code. We're required to put the rail in, and in that case you would be required to select the option. This house also has an upgraded garage door, more of a coachman or kind of an arts and crafts style garage door. A couple other features to kind of coordinate with the front. We added some shingle siding at the apex of the gabled roof. This feature is actually built out, so this elevation or this plane is all in the same plane. This is punched out about 6 inches to create some detail on the side elevation. This here is called a water table. It happens to be a corniced water table. So when you look at the side elevation, what we're trying to do is break up the massing so it doesn't look so plain, so vanilla. We also break up the massing by adding certain windows. This window happens to be in the stairwell. You'll notice it doesn't necessarily coordinate with any of the other windows, because if you can imagine, the stairwell is about here. So we couldn't drop this window to be at the same height as the first floor because it would be in the stairwell. And if we put this window to the height of the second floor, it doesn't provide as much natural light into the stairwell, and so therefore that's why we position the window in this location. This corniced water table also allows our customers, if they wanted to change the color of the siding. So for instance, this band of siding could be one color and this band could be another, because we're breaking it up with this corniced water table. The other thing that we could do is, I'm going to just flip over here, is we could have introduced something called a belly board, and that's just a horizontal piece of trim to break up the first floor and the second floor. You see this quite often in arts and crafts homes, and so if you look across the back, there would be a belly board nominally going across the back in this condition. So if you wanted, you could do a color here, perhaps a somewhat darker green, and then do just a shade lighter green, perhaps. I'm using green as just an example for the second floor siding, again just to break it up. So this belly board adds a little bit more detail. In this house we didn't need it, it had enough fenestration, but if you had less windows, perhaps you would add the belly board, and or you would add the belly board if you wanted to break up the color of the siding. It's an easy way to transition. So here's an example of a double hung window, and here's an example of casement windows. You may remember we said we do standard casement windows in kitchens and baths. This is the back of the house. Here's your kitchen, here's your master bath. Here are the double hung windows. Now, in terms of how we define these windows, this casement window is defined as a one light, meaning there's no grills, it's one piece of glass. This double hung window is referred to as a 4/1. So the grills at the top sash of this double hung make a 4 grid pattern geometry over one light, or no grills at the bottom. So this is commonly referred to as 4/1. Some other styles that are popular are 1/1, so that would be no grills. Another popular theme would be a prairie style grill pattern, right? So this is where the grills are kind of pushed out to the edges. Taking a prairie style would make this a little bit bigger, so it makes it easier to see. So that's a prairie style over 1. The other, I would say, is sometimes we'll do a 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3. So this is 3 lights. There's 2 actual grills over 1 light. The reason that the 1 light at the bottom is popular is most people do not want to put grills in their doors. It really creates, makes the doors very busy. And so to create some common theme, we do 1 light on the bottom sash. So when you're standing on the first floor, that 1 light kind of matches the door having 1 light. And it just kind of syncs up nicely. Here again you can see, remember I said in laundry rooms and in master bathrooms, typically the windows are a little bit different size. Here this is called a 2040 double hung, 2 feet wide by 4 feet tall.